Hi guys, I hope that you're all doing great. Before we start with this webinar, I would like to thank all of you for joining us on today's webinar. My name is ljubica.nikolovska and I work at Alite International. And here we also have my colleague Christian, who is going to host the webinar together with me. Before we tell you more about it, I would like to say a few words about the current situation that we're all in. So this has been a very hard time for all of us, and because of the coronavirus outbreak, our daily our everyday lives are completely changed and we must stay at home. So I know that it is very easy to get distracted with everything that's been going on, and of course that's for a reason, but I think that it is very important to use the stay home time in the best way we could so that we can come out of this situation even more skilled than we were previously. So considering that our previous marketing automation webinar went really great, we wanted to host it once again so that more of you can enjoy and learn from this content. So I'm going to walk you through the presentation, which will take for about 30 minutes. And then my colleague Christian is going to take over. So he will tell you more about it now.
Hi everyone, my name is Christian. I will be moderating the Q&A session of this webinar, which will happen after Ljubica's presentation. So I'll just like to invite all of you, if you have any question, you can use, there's a questions tab under the screen. You can input any questions you have regarding the content, or feel free to use the chat as well. So I'll be there to help you out as much as I can. And after the webinar, we'll send a recorded version, so you can share it with friends and colleagues, or even the people who couldn't make it but registered can see it too. Thank you.
Okay, so now that we give you an intro, we can start with the presentation. So cross-channel marketing automation has been a trendy word in the past few years, and very often people are thinking of different things when referring to it. However, in today's presentation, when talking about cross-channel marketing, I will refer to interacting with your customers across all available channels, both online and offline, in a way that it doesn't isolate the channels from themselves, but rather keeps them coherent in one system. So before we start the presentation, I would like to share a few numbers with you that come from a 2018 Mercato study, in which they found that 44% of the companies that implement marketing automation technology saw a return of their investment within the first 6 months of implementing it. What's even better, 76% of the companies saw a return of their investment within the first year. Now, no matter if we are talking about implementing new technologies or new strategies in your business, I believe that the return of investment is very important when making a decision to go with it. So the challenge is how do you come up with a successful marketing automation implementation? We believe that the way that companies should go about introducing cross-channel marketing automation is through a four-phase strategic approach, which starts with staying in a moment with real-time data tracking, followed by truly knowing your audience through dynamic and advanced segmentation, then making sure that every message you send out matter by always being relevant and always deliver real value to the customers. And the fourth phase is paving the path to loyalty by automating the user journeys of your customers with your products or services. So let's start with the first one. Staying in a moment requires that you, as a brand, you are aware of the physical and digital surroundings of your brand, and that you are aware of what your customers are thinking, saying, and doing at all times. Well, not literally all the time, but you get the idea. Successful marketing automation starts with data, and by this I mean both customer data and all other data that is relevant to your brand's presence in the world. Setting up data tracking technology will enable you to capture the data in real time, which is the key to proper automation. Now, you as a brand, you have to understand your customer behavior as it happens and where it happens. And in order to achieve all of this, you need to set up complex integrations of various independent systems, such as your billing and payment methods, your ERP and CRM solutions, your sales channel, e-commerce store, marketing and advertising networks, in your analytics and reporting toolsets as well. But doing all of this takes us to the next challenge, which is how do you properly manage all the customer data coming from everywhere? So there are three key components to make sure that you properly manage your customer data. And the first one is having a customer data platform. This type of system will enable you to stream down the data to your consumer systems, such as your customer engagement platforms. But having a customer data platform will not solve all of your problems, which takes us to the second key component, and that is having data management processes in place. So considering that processing data is costly for most companies, you will need to make sure why you are collecting every single data point in order to maximize the value of it, but at the same time to minimize the data cost. So right now I want to give you an example about this. Let's say that, for example, you own a sports store. And because of that, you will need data such as your customer shoe size, their gender, and even their favorite sport. But if you, for example, sell software solutions, none of this sports data will have any meaning to your product or services. Now, I know that this example seems pretty obvious, but you'll be surprised at how many companies are actually collecting data that is completely irrelevant to their brand. And the third key component that we need to have is data security policies. So this means that you as a brand, you must be fully compliant with existing data privacy laws, such as the GDPR, and that you are collecting the data that is only absolutely necessary for you to have it, and that you are doing it in a way that is 100% secure. So once you set up the data tracking and data starts reaching your platform, you will have plenty of data about your customers, starting with the most obvious and simple data about your customers to the highly valued behavioral data. But with this comes very interesting thing, and that is that you will be able to recognize patterns in your customer behavior and to start breaking down silos of customer data. So, for example, you will learn that your customers mostly read your articles on weekends at home, that they mostly use an iPhone 8 when interacting with your brand, that the customers watched a product explainer video before making their first purchase, and that they were actually exposed to 8 marketing messages before making their first one. And you will also learn that ultimately, after 2 months, the customer came back to make another purchase. So having all these insights, you will be able to truly start knowing your audience. And just like the relationships you have in your private life, truly knowing your audience is the key to building a strong and long-lasting relationship with your customers. So right now we're moving on to the second step of our 4-phase strategic approach, and that is truly knowing your audience through dynamic and advanced segmentation. So once you have high-quality customer data, you will be able to build advanced audience segments, which are based on the following customer attributes, starting with demographic, geographic, psychographic, and behavioral attributes. Now, you might think that this isn't anything new, that businesses have been doing segmentation for decades. It's how outbound marketing works, right? But let's take a step back and see what is really the difference here. So before I go on to tell you about how awesome dynamic segmentation is, I want to share an example with you about how static email lists work. So if you want to run a campaign, let's say that this means that the marketing team should first write up the requirements for the target audience. And for example, let's say that we want to promote a new cosmetic product to all females living in London that are between 25 and 35 years of age. So once the marketing team has these requirements, they're giving the list to the data team, which runs an SQL query on the existing customer database. So then the data team, once they have the list, gives it back to the marketing team, which imports it into the email service provider and ends up with a static email list of users. So I want to ask you right now, can you spot where the problem is here actually? Now imagine that some of these people already bought the cosmetic product. Maybe some of them moved out from London, or they even deleted their email address. So in each scenario, this means that you ended up sending irrelevant messages that might ruin your reputation forever. So you need to be very careful with that. And this takes us to the next slide, which is about dynamic real-time segmentation. Now, real-time dynamic segmentation works in a much more agile way, which means that once you have set up the data management processes in place, you will be able to capture user activity data as it happens and to stream it down to consumer systems such as your customer engagement platform. But the difference here is that unlike with the case with a static email list, with modern cross-channel engagement platforms, you won't need to learn how to run an SQL query in order to get the results that you want. You will also won't need to depend that much on your data team because most modern cross-channel engagement platforms offer their simple drag and drop toolsets, which allow you to build out segments based on the available customer data. So once you set up the filters and data reaches the platform, the segments automatically build out and users fall into their appropriate segments. And this is what makes the segmentation dynamic. It is because every time a new data point reaches the platform, the segments are automatically refreshed and users fall in and out of segments constantly, which means that as soon as somebody buys the cosmetic product that we wanted to promote, they are moving to a new segment in which they won't be getting the same promotional ads about the particular product. So now that we have set up the data processes, right, and we know our audience, we have the perfect foundation to make sure that every message we send out matters. And the key to making sure that every message matters is relevancy. We believe that relevancy is achieved by delivering the right content in the right context. So what do I mean by delivering the right content? Let's say that, for example, you own an online goods store, right? And you have different groups of people coming to your website. So some of them are really into buying audio equipment. Another group has children and they're interested into buying toys. And a third group is really into home decoration. So once you know all this information about your customers, you will be able to create a content that will suit each of the customers and each segment of audience. Now, this will mean that your customers will want to watch or read whatever you show them on any of your channels. And now for the second part about delivering the right content in the right context, I want to tell you more about one of the most important features that cross-channel engagement platforms offer, and that is triggering. So in our case, triggering refers to defining specific user actions or events for acting as triggers in a certain campaign. So this means that a trigger can be any user action that requires, for example, a follow-up message. For example, let's say a user signing up for your newsletter. And here, I also want to know that a trigger can be any user inaction, such as somebody not opening your email for a whole month. Let's move on to the next slide. Well, right now, I want to talk more about personalization. So chances are that if you work in marketing, you have already heard about it hundreds of times. And trust me, you are hearing this with a reason. So let's go back to the online goods store example and say that it is Women's Day. So because of that, you decided that you want to run a campaign to all existing female customers of your database. So by now, the content of this message is already custom made for that audience, but even within this audience, every recipient of that message is a unique individual with their own preferences, wants, and needs. So this takes us to another challenge, which is how do you come up with a message that is unique enough for each recipient, but at the same time comes from the same campaign? And this is where marketing automation steps in. So cross-channel engagement platforms enable you to personalize the content of your messages in real time based on the available customer data that you have or data coming from external sources. So this means that you can use available customer data, such as, for example, previous purchases, or maybe external data, for example, weather data coming from weather forecast apps in order to further contextualize the message. So the main point here is that every recipient of the message should receive a unique version of the same campaign, which will be completely personalized for them. Now, for your customers, this will increase the relevancy of that message and the value of it. But for your business, this will mean higher open rates, higher click-through rates, more conversions, more revenue, and ultimately longer-lasting customer relationships. And it's very important to note here that personalization, as you can see, is definitely so much more than just mentioning your customer name, as it has plenty of benefits for your business. So it's very important to put some benefit into it, put some effort into it. So let's move on. By now, I'm pretty sure that you have noticed that I mentioned a system called cross-channel engagement platform. What I mean by this is a marketing technology system that allows brands to interact and engage with their customers over multiple, but mostly digital channels. So depending on the platform itself, this can include channels such as email, in-app messages and push notifications, SMS and phone calls, web browser messages, digital advertising networks, social media platforms, direct mail messages, and even displaying notifications to newer channels, such as displaying notification on smart TV screens or sending smart voice messages over smart voice assistants. So the great thing about cross-channel engagement platforms is that not only do they allow you to interact with your customers over multiple channels, but the engagement data from one channel influences the activity in all other channels, which means that you are able to set up rules and automations that depend on each other to make sure that you are connecting with your customers wherever they are, but at the same time, you are respecting their privacy and you're making sure that you're not over messaging them. So in order to choose the right platform for your business, this means that you have to depend on three things. The first one is the number and the type of channels that you want to use for customer engagement. The second one is the size of your existing customer database. And the third one, which for many companies I believe is the most important, is the budget they have. But one of the greatest benefits of marketing automation for your marketing team will be the release of their time to focus on the bigger picture and to start thinking strategically how to optimize the user journey of the customers in order to pave the path towards brand loyalty, which takes us to the next challenge, and that is, how do you become your customer's favorite brand? So one of the ways that can help you to create loyal customers is through building automated user journeys. With cross-channel engagement platforms, you have the possibility to build out workflows of messages based on user activity and interaction with your brand in order to guide them through their customer journey with relevant messages every step of the way. So right now, I want to share a few use cases of automated user journeys. And the first one is interacting with your prospects while they're in the most aware state of mind, which means that you can show them display ads of a product that they browsed on your website a few hours ago. Another use case is onboarding new customers in order to help them to learn how they can use your product in the most efficient way. And then we also have engaging and retaining your existing customers by notifying them about the latest updates or features of your product or service. Or you can simply show them notifications about things that really matter to them, such as if a user is getting a message from another user. And the fourth use case that I want to share with you is re-engaging lapsed or almost lapsed customers by sending them relevant win-back messages that will remind the customers of the benefits they have of using your product or service, or maybe of you as a brand in general. So I know that automated user journeys can seem a little bit confusing. So right now I want to share an example with you that I believe it will make things a bit more clear. So let's say, for example, that you have written a really nice article about working out at home. So a prospect sees this article, comes across your brand, and decides to visit your website. So this is the moment when automation actually starts. The website gives the prospect a unique cookie ID to recognize him by, and with this you can know their location and the device they're using. The prospect is also added to an audience for advertising your product, which will be a stationary box that will help customers to exercise at home. So after some time, the prospect sees some of these display ads and they decide to visit your website again. But this time, they decided that they want to buy your product from your e-store. So the moment this happens, the prospect is now a customer, and you start receiving more information about them, such as their name, email address, shipping address, payment method, and from now on, even their purchase history. So the prospect, who is now a customer, is added to an exclusion audience, which means that they won't see the same promotional messages for that particular product that they just bought. So it's also worth to mention here that the prospect is part of an email onboarding sequence, which means that the brand is going to send them a relevant email messages that will help the customer to learn more about a product and how they can benefit out of it. So after some time, you decide that you want to add this customer to another audience for advertising, but this time it will be your complementary product, which is a mobile app that will help users to exercise at home. So you send messages to the customer and you show him display ads, and after some time, the customer decides that they actually want to give the app a try. So they go to the App Store, they download it, they register, and soon after registering, the customer is part of an onboarding flow, which means that they're going to get in-app messages that will help him to learn more about the app and how they can get the maximum out of it. So after some time, also the customer gets push notifications that will further on boost the engagement that customers have with your app. And now that you have the customer inside your app, you decide that this is the perfect time to promote an upsell, which in this case will be a premium version of the app. The customer, who is now very satisfied with your product, decides that buying the premium version of the app seems like a great idea, so they go for it. With this, the customer is not only a one-time buyer, but they become a long-lasting subscriber to your digital health product. So let's move on to the next slide. Now, I want to note that user journeys can seem very straightforward, but they're actually non-linear because customers can enter your funnel from any given entry point and move up and down continuously. So to fit the example from our previous slide, it means that the customer can actually first download the app, use it for a while, forget about it, and then come back at your website as the last thing they do from their user journey. And I know that this seems pretty chaotic, but that's the beauty of marketing automation. It can actually help you to make sense out of this mess. On the slide here, I'm going to show you a user journey that we've made for one of our clients, and it shows all the potential interactions and directions of a movement of a user within a digital food platform product. So as you can see, there are interactions and movements everywhere. It seems pretty chaotic, I know, but the thing is we had marketing automation that helped us to make sense out of this mess. So right now I'm going to talk more about what you need in order to power up a user journey to this extent. So we've actually built out similar user journeys for clients previously. And in order to automate a user journey to this extent, you need to power it up with marketing technology. So on the screen here, you can see a setup of marketing technology systems that we used in synchronization to power up an automation of the user journey of a client with an e-commerce store. So we've used systems such as Google Analytics and Facebook Pixel to track user activity on the web and the mobile app. And then we've used a platform like Segment to manage, process, and stream customer data. And we've also used Braze's cross-channel customer engagement platform and MailChimp's email service provider to engage with existing customers on multiple channels. And I also want to note here that we've used a huge stack of channels for acquiring new audiences, such as Google Ads and Facebook ads, content marketing, landing pages, social media, and so much more. All of this cross-channel data is stored on an AWS bucket on which you can run advanced analytics tools such as QLake and Power BI. So now that I told you what we've used so far, I want to know that not every company will have to use such a vast area of technology in order to achieve its goals, because this really depends on your business plans, your future goals, and your current needs. Cross-channel marketing automation will enable you to deliver exceptional, user-focused, and relevant experiences across all touch points. And right now, I want to take you back to the beginning when I mentioned that 76% of the companies that implement marketing automation technology see a return of their investment within the first year. Now, you may ask, if marketing automation is that powerful, why aren't all companies successful at it? We believe that this is happening because companies aren't following through the four-phase strategic approach, which starts with staying in a moment with real-time data tracking, truly knowing your audience through dynamic and advanced segmentation, making every message you send out by being relevant and personalized, and paving the path to loyalty by automating the user journeys of your customers. So on the next slide here, I'm going to tell you more about the top 3 reasons because of which businesses fail at automation implementation. And the first one is the lack of strategic approach. So very often companies go about introducing marketing technology just because it is popular at the moment, or because the benefits of it seem very catchy. But the thing is that you need to align the tool you choose with your strategy overall. The second reason is the lack of time and resources, which means that even if companies go about automation the right way, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will have the needed resources to dedicate to such project, because most companies today are already running at full capacity. And because of that, they're not able to take their employees off of their daily tasks and then to place them on such a project. And the third reason is the lack of know-how. This means that even if companies have everything what it takes in order to implement such a project, it doesn't necessarily mean that the team will have the needed expertise and knowledge to set up the process the right way. So luckily, there are companies that specialize at implementing marketing technologies, and companies such as Alite International, who can help businesses to go through entire journey of implementation in their marketing strategy the right way, and also to make sure that they see a return on their investment in marketing technology. So with this, right now, I would like to end the first part of the webinar and to open up the space to hear any questions that you have regarding marketing technology. And right now, my colleague Christian is going to take over. So if you didn't write down any question, now is the time to
Thank you, Ljubica. I hope that everybody had as much fun as I had listening to you. So I've noted down the questions you guys have been asking, and feel free to continue to do so. If we don't have enough time to answer them on the webinar, I'll take them down and send you the answers via email after the webinar. Okay, so let's start. So the first question I've noted down here says, what if I don't have any demographic or behavioral data? How can I segment my users? I'm asking about a big number of users, like 10K. Well, obviously, a lot of the stuff that Ljubica talked about kind of have a premise that you will already have some customer data about your customers, which obviously will not be the case at all times. So first, let's say if you're a startup or you're just starting up your digital presence of your company, and you do not have any data, what I would suggest to do is send a mass campaign to all of your users based on market research and competition research. See what others in your industry are doing, see best practices. And once you get the response from your first campaign, you'll start getting back data. You'll start to learn what kind of message resonates with your customers. You'll start to understand what interests them, which of them are interested in your brand, like they're opening the email or the message, which are not. And then uh, on every next campaign, you'll have more and more data to be used to build better campaigns, to do better targeting, and ultimately uh, create more efficient marketing automation. uh, Next question says, it was actually a remark by one of the viewers. You have different ways to collect data via online tracking, surveys, social media monitoring, etc. Yes, besides just the ways you can track data online via, let's say, Google Analytics or other website tracking tools, or an SDK or mobile app, or all the social media analytics tools available out there, there will be also data about your customers that's offline. Let's say from any interviews you do, surveys, any paper records you have. So there are ways, there are CRM softwares that allow for this data to be used again. It will, in some cases, need a manual human data entry operator to input them. But once this is done, you can also use that data in your digital campaigns, which is good. Okay, next question. What if you don't have any ads in place? Well, this is an interesting question. So I would say that in today's world, ads are almost a must if you want to succeed in the digital world. However, we've seen businesses, a lot of them, succeed without paying any ads. And they've done that by either having really, really good content marketing, which means they've invested a lot of time and effort to build out great content, whether it's written content or videos or other kind of images. Or other brands that try to leverage uh, new platforms. You all know the example with Airbnb and how they leveraged Craigslist to grow to the first couple thousand users, or this guy Gary Wee that does videos every single day. I don't think he's paying for any media impressions. All of what he gets is organic, but he invests a lot of time in creating really quality and quantity of content. So there are ways to do it without ads, but I personally would always involve also paid promotion as well whenever I was working on strategies. Okay, let's see the next one. Do I have to have a specific tools to send dynamic emails and personalized messages? Which one would you recommend, and how much does it cost? Well, yes, of course, you need a tool to do it. I mean, you could do it manually, but it will take you like a couple of months to do a single campaign. So there are a lot of tools out there that can help you. It really depends on the size of your business and the size of your customer base and the budget you have available. So if you're a startup or a small business just starting out in this area, I would suggest using MailChimp, which the cheapest plan starts, I think, around $15 per month, which is a sum that I believe any business can afford. So start with the smallest one and build up as your business grows and as your customer base grows. Any tips for B2B cross-channel marketing? This is a question I get a lot of times. So obviously B2B is a little bit trickier than B2C, but that doesn't mean that automation is not working for B2B. So what many companies are doing, they utilize lead tracking softwares such as Albatross or Zoho, or I think even HubSpot has their own feature about this. These are analytic tools that you install on your website, and they track visitors to your website. And by using their IP address, it maps them to different companies or accounts. Once you know this, you can set up automations. For example, if you notice that a specific company has visited your website, more than 5 times, automatically create them as an account in your CRM, and send a notification on Slack to your sales team that they should reach out to this particular company which has shown interest in your business. You can also use this data for targeting. For example, pull out all the companies that have visited your website in the last month and use them as an audience for targeting ads on Google or on LinkedIn. LinkedIn especially gives you the capability to do this and target ads to specifically those companies. So you know that you optimize ad spend, and you know you're reaching companies that know about your brand and are interested in the services that you offer. Okay, I can see the chat here is on fire. So I'll try to get to as many questions as I can. Ulrich here says, is the system something that you buy out of a box, or is something Alite built? The software solutions that we've shown in the presentation are all solutions already created that exist on the market. Some of them are our partners, some are not. And so basically what Alite as a company does is offer the service to clients of setting up the automation strategy, connecting, integrating all of these different systems, and making sure you're using the data flows smoothly and you're using it to build out personalized campaigns for your users, and see the analytics and reports on what you've done. So basically, we are a consulting company that helps our clients build out the whole automation flow, build out of different technologies that each suit individual businesses need. Hope that answers your question. Okay, let's see next one. According to GDPR, you cannot just send messages campaigns without permissions, right? Correct, you are correct. If you're in the EU, you cannot just blast messages to any personnel. However, GDPR is, as a regulation, was created to protect individual and personal privacy rights. That means and if you read through the regulation, in it there's an article that says that communicating businesses or business email addresses, such as my business email address shown here, is allowed under GDPR if you fulfill three conditions, which are the content you're sending to that person is relevant to them. So you're trying to sell something that's relevant to me. Secondly, you clearly state where you've got my email address. For example, you can tell me tomorrow, if you try to sell me something, you can say, I saw your email address at a webinar you hosted. So that would be fine. And third, you have to give the prospect a clear way to unsubscribe from your communication. So whether it's just a please stop emailing me a reply, or just anything like that, and just make sure that you don't contact that person again if they've decided to not hear from you anymore. So B2B contacting under GDPR is allowed if you're just being a decent human and polite, and not spamming your prospects. What does a beginner digital marketing needs to know to work with and for marketing automation tools? Well, I would say that I guess the easiest way to start with it is with email marketing. And as I mentioned earlier, MailChimp is like pretty much the most simple automation tool you can get out there. So start with something simple as that, and try to build out your expertise over time by moving on to more complex systems. So now if you want to move to a B2B direction, I guess HubSpot is also a pretty straightforward tool that you can start using. And I think they have a pre-package, so you can even just make an account and start playing around. Google Analytics also is free. You can start doing that. Facebook advertising, and try connecting your Google Analytics and your Facebook advertising platform for beginning. So something simpler like that before moving on to more advanced concept. What is also interesting most, if not any of these technologies, they offer their own academies and a lot of resources that you can use for free to learn and to build up your marketing technology knowledge. Okay. Maria here asks how our market is going to be able to track customers after the death of third-party cookies. So this is a really good question. Actually, read a little bit around it. I think that predictions are that more native ad publishing will increase, like they used to do it in the past. Like the media itself is gonna offer their own targeting capabilities. A lot of news and a lot of large media companies are already building recommendation engines that will help their advertisers target their ads. So it's a little bit of a blow for the ad technology industry, but I think they'll get back. And I guess we'll just have to find some workarounds. Okay, we have one here about coronavirus and marketing automation. How do you adjust your tone of voice and messaging in order not to sound like you're profiting from the situation? Are there any changes in the marketing strategy with your current client base, and how do you adjust messaging to keep pace? Well, this is an interesting one because I would say that on one side you have to be very careful and very have to show empathy, because we're all of us we're in this together. Everybody's being affected, so you have to feel and show empathy, genuine empathy, and try to be considerate in your marketing efforts. But that does not mean that business should stop. Obviously, the world goes on, and it will return to normal eventually. So businesses will have to continue marketing, continue selling. You just have to do it in a way that's sensitive, that you're not trying to profit over the situation. I would recommend against using the situation in your ads or campaigns, like refrain from mentioning, or if you are mentioning the situation and the coronavirus, then use it in a way to show empathy and compassion to your clients, rather than trying to profit out of it. That would be my opinion on that. I think we're coming up to the end of this webinar. I think I'll take one more question and then we can close it down. Let's see something interesting here. What if I have a lot of data, but it's not perfectly organized, for example, in HubSpot? Are there tools that can find and segment automatically? Or how should I do to segment? Lots of time, actually, companies are struggling with this. And sometimes you need a human expert to come in, a data analyst or data scientist, to help you make sense of the mess. So think of it this way: automation is a tool, and it's a way to fuel your growth of your business, empower your sales and your marketing efforts. But it's not a one-for-all solution. So sometimes you need to get the smart people in your building together, and get data people, get engineering to help you, and come up with ways to untangle data and use it in a way that's efficient. And because all of these technologies will only work if you feed them proper data. And there are some tools that can help you. For example, Segment, which is a customer data platform. Its main feature is to get data from different sources, cleanse it, parse it, and combine it into single profiles, and for you, so you skip the manual effort, and then stream it down to the various systems like CRM, customer engagement platforms, analytics, advertising platform, etc. So you get clean data that's up to date, data that's synced across all of your platforms at the same time. So there are tools that can help out for sure. Yeah. So you can check out Segment and see if that's something that will help you out in your case. I think that's all the time we have for today, Ljubica. So one more time, we'll send a recorded version of this webinar after it. And all the questions I didn't get to answer, I'll write them down and send you via email tomorrow. If you have any questions regarding marketing automation and how to implement it in your company, feel free to send me an email. You can see my email on the screen. Also, if you're thinking of getting a job in this field in the future, feel free to reach out to me as well, because I know we have a couple of students on the webinar as well. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and maybe we'll work together sometimes in the future. Thank you for listening.
Okay, so right now we're coming to the end of this webinar, and once again, I want to thank all of you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to talk about marketing automation, and I sincerely hope that you found this content very useful and interesting. As Christian already mentioned, we're going to send you the recording of the webinar within the next 2 business days. And if you have any more questions, feel free to drop me or Christian a line, and we'll be happy to answer you back. Once again, thank you a lot. Take care of yourself this period. Stay safe, and if you have the possibility, try to learn new skills so that when everything is over, we'll come more prepared for the next challenges. Have a great day. You have our emails, and if there's anything you want to know more, feel free to write us back. Bye, guys.